In this lesson, we'll connect our wrist to follow our arm rig. Firstly, let's go ahead and hide our FK bones. We'll also bring back our IK controls. The reason why is we're going to want to reorient them so that they'll be oriented to our FK wrist. And that's so when we set up our constraint, it's going to be a seamless process. Again, we won't have to worry about any conflict with our orientation. So to do this, we simply select our IK control, go ahead and run an orientation constraint to the FK wrist. When it flips, we'll now need to freeze transformations, head over to our hierarchy panel, choose effect object only, and with angle snap, we'll rotate this back 180 degrees. Okay, simple as that. Let's go ahead and take care of the right side. Again, select the control, orientation constrain that to the wrist, freeze its transformations, and what's nice is that it's already facing the right direction, so that kind of saves us some time. From here, we'll go back to our manage layers and bring back our envelope object so we can work with our wrist. So here's how we're going to do this. We're going to want the helper that we're about to make. We're going to want that to be position constrained to our end nub on our arm chain. And then we're going to want our wrist to be linked right back to that helper, okay, so that it'll always follow. And then we're going to set up an orientation constraint between our FK wrist and our IK control so we can blend back and forth. So to get started here, we can go ahead and create a helper. Make it a point. Let's see here. We can go ahead and use a box for this, and before we resize it, I'll just go ahead and align it to the wrist, again in position and orientation. From there, heading over to the modify panel, I'd say maybe we could bring this to about 2 for its size. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and rename this. This is going to be PT Ori since we'd like to match the orientation of the wrist with this, followed by L underscore wrist IKFK01. Now that that's done, we're going to want to take this and actually link that to our global control. Okay, now it might be kind of difficult to do that from our viewport, so let's go ahead and take a look at another way we can do this. Could actually use the schematic for it. Under graph editors, we'll make a new schematic view. We'll find that object by simply pressing the Z key to zoom in, and there it is. So as we zoom out, we can see that our global control is right there at the center. So all we need to do is take this object and drag that over. Alright, so from here to link, just a matter of going to our link tool and linking that to the global. Alright, so that's another way you can set things up, and of course you do have the option of breaking your link from here as well if you need to. Alright, great, so we can go ahead and close that out for now. With that linked, you can go ahead and freeze its transformations. Alright, so again we want it to be position constrained to our main arm. Heading over to our layer manager, we can make sure our IKFK bones are hidden. So we can go ahead and just position constrain this to the nub. Alright, once that's taken care of, we can now link our wrist back to this object. Okay, great. What I'd also like to do is go ahead and recolor this. We can use a light blue. Alright, so now it's just a matter of setting up our orientation constraints and then plugging that into our slider. So selecting our helper, we'll choose orientation constraint, choose the FK. Remember, we did FK first and then IK. That way we can just use the same expression we used before. We'll go back, orientation constraint to the IK arm. Okay, so now head back over to our layers. We'll hide the left FK, left IK. Go ahead and wire the transform rotation orientation 0, weight 0 right into our left slider. This is going to be object and value. So again, the first one is just a direct connect. And the next, we'll use our ABS expression. So that's going to be ABS will concatenate value, and within that's going to be minus 100. Let's go ahead and copy that since we'll be using it again. Alright, so let's go ahead and see how this all works. If we were to bring back our IKFK controls, we can test this out. So right now we're in IK mode. If we were to select that, bring that up, there is our wrist following just fine. Alright, great. And it'll wave at you. Let's see what happens now if we were to go ahead and take this to FK. We'll blend right back, and there we have it, working wonderfully. That's what I love about rigging, when things work. Alright. Okay, great. So I'll just go ahead and undo those things back, and we have this working just fine. So now it's just a matter of doing the same thing to our right side to finish up here. Okay, so I'll just blend that back to IK. Can go ahead and turn off select and manipulate. Choose our control and transform to 0. Don't want to freeze up there. Make sure that doesn't happen. Okay, so let's go ahead and take care of the right side. Again, we can go ahead and create our helper. Align it to the wrist. Now that that's done, we're going to want that link to our global control. So let's head over back to the schematic. Okay, there it is right at the end. Just grab that and drag that over until we find our global. Dragged it a little bit too far. Okay, so again, we want to link that to the global. Can close this out now. Rename it. That's going to be PT Ori underscore R underscore wrist IK FK 01. From there, we'll want to position constrain it, or actually, let's go ahead and freeze its transformations first. Okay, now we can position constrain it to our main arm's nub. Once that's done, we can go ahead and link that wrist right back to the helper. And then it's just a matter of setting up our orientation constraints. So, orientation constraint to the FK first, and then to the IK. Now, if you see it kind of flip out like that, let me go ahead and undo this. If you see it flip out, just double check and make sure that this IK wrist is oriented to your FK. So I'll actually go ahead and use Alt A to make sure that that's matched. And then just freeze the transformations. So now, if we were to go ahead and select this helper and orientation constrain that, okay, everything should be just fine. Alright, so we have those in place. We're ready to now go in and set up our connection to the slider. So I'll just right click, wire parameters. That's going to be the rotation, weight 0, getting plugged into our slider's object value. Okay, so from here, again, the first connection is basic. The next one, we'll go ahead and paste in our expression and connect. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and test these things out. We're in IK mode. Select that, bring it up. There it is. And we must wave the wrist. That has to happen. Just joking. Alright, that looks good. We'll go to select and manipulate, bring that over to FK, test that out. Just fine. Okay, so I'll go ahead and undo that back. Bring this back to 0. Turn off select and manipulate, and then we can go ahead and set this back to 0. So there we have it. We have finished setting up our wrist. And if we were to take a look at this, go into our global control, scaling this down, the whole wrist, or excuse me, the whole control rig is going to follow. With our IKFK arms finished, we only have a few more tasks before we're ready to envelope. So we're just about done here. In the next lesson, we're moving right on to the shoulders.